Hi, guys. Think I'm live. How you doing today? Hi, Donna. Donna Lynn. Oh, you loved having the girls. They were great yesterday, weren't they? It was so much fun. Ooh, TGIF. Hello from Oakland, Maryland. I agree with you, Tammy Lewis. TGIF. And Mari, hi. Rebecca. Oh, you so enjoyed yesterday's show. Thank you. Thank you. It was so much fun. They had a lot of fun too. They really did. Got a lot of great feedback. They loved reading all of your comments. You were so many nice comments. And Anna Mae Foley, I'm going to read this because I read this right before I came on. Hello from Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Anna's here with us all the time. And hold on. Today I am enjoying, here, I'll put it up here. Today I'm enjoying the beautiful view from my balcony again. I hear that every day from her. And looking at the castle. Is it the castle on the hill? Is that what it is? Which is part of the apartment complex where I live. It is a historic castle built by people from England in the late 1800s. And I love where I live. Well, you should, because that sounds cool. Deborah Robertson, hi from Virginia. Hi, Vincent. How you doing? Nan, you thought it was great yesterday. Me too. Hi, Marty from Pennsylvania. And Marion Lowry. Your girls. Wow. Yes, it was. It was a fun day yesterday. And hi, Cricket from Bluebell. I loved yesterday's show. Looking forward to today's guest. Yep. Cindy Abood. You got my book and Brad's book. Brad Davidson. That's the Stark Naked 21-Day Metabolic Reset. Gosh. See, it's still working. Good. Hi, Laura, Cardiff by the Sea, out there in sunny, beautiful San Diego area. Good for you, Barb Zaz. She's watching us. She's chugging her water after reading my book. You must have just finished the chapter that says, I laughed so hard, tears rolled down my leg. Okay, don't laugh at yourself, Joan. Today's what? It is Thursday. It's May 29th. You know, I don't know if we really talked about it, but we're ending May. I mean, I can't believe May is coming to an end. And May has been National Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm sure we've all kind of thought about our mental health this month. Believe it or not, it was 9 weeks ago that I began connecting with all of you here on Facebook. 9 weeks ago, I did my first Facebook Live show. And that first, Nicole from my office says, Joan, it's Friday, not Thursday. Yeah, TGIF would make it Friday. That's right. Time flies when you're having a good time. My very first guest on this live show was a psychotherapist named Lynn Lyons. And we had her on to talk about how we could all approach how we were going to deal with the stress and anxiety of the pandemic and everybody staying at home. Of course, at that time, we were only like a week or so, maybe 10 days into it. And I don't know if any of us would have actually thought that, you know, at that time that we would be right in the same place 9 weeks later. So today I want to talk about how we're all doing at this point in time. Especially now it's summer here. It's nice outside. Everybody they want to go outside. So I asked Lynn Lyons back. She is a psychotherapist, but she's also a best-selling author and speaker. I should have gotten her books out here, and I forgot. Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents, Playing with Anxiety, Using Hypnosis with Children. So she works a lot with families and with women and with kids. She has 30 years of practice specializing in families and anxiety. So we've got Lynn Lyons back, believe it or not, today. So let's say hi to Lynn. Hey, did you think we were going to be back at this time?
You know, I honestly didn't. And doesn't it seem like it's this one of those things where it feels like it was just, you know, we just spoke to each other and it feels like it was 10 years ago. There's this weird time distortion, right? That we've been doing this for so long and that it really hasn't been that long. So I think our poor brains trying to figure out.
Dragged out.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that movie? Groundhog Day. I should remember that movie. I think I'm in that movie.
Yeah. You are?
Right? I'm going to ask my office. I think I am in that movie. Well, I should put it on for my kids and just not say anything and then just let it come up. But that it is kind of like Groundhog Day.
Well, and it doesn't surprise me at all that you said TGIF and then you said it was Thursday, because I saw this funny meme that somebody put up that said TGI Day.
Yes.
Right? This is like, here we are again. Yeah.
Well, so then I'll go there. I had a few things I was going to get to before that. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is that usually you have TGIF, and then there's these 2 days that are totally different than any other days of the week, and it's called the weekend, and we all want to be there at the weekend.
Right.
But now those days aren't that dissimilar, and it's almost like you forget that, wait a second, I'm in the weekend, so I'm supposed to relax, I'm supposed to, what can we do to start somehow delineating, because it almost feels like you're not getting, you're used to getting those 2 down days.
Right.
It almost feels like we're not getting them.
Yeah, it just is all sort of blended into each other. I think, and this I think is going to make summer trickier too, because school is out. So we've got that whole, our lives, even when you're an adult, right? So even you've been out of school, I've been out of school for a really long time, but Sunday night still has that feel to it. Like, okay, we're starting another week. And that just sort of seems to have disappeared. And I think now with summer coming, and then the other thing too, is that this is a time when in summer we think about vacations. Well, what's that this summer? Right. Yeah. So we delineate our summer based on, well, I'm going to work and then I get this 2 weeks of vacation, or I go to visit my family. And all of that is so distorted at this point. So how do we delineate? I think one of the things I've been talking about, because I've been talking a lot about this, as you can imagine, is going back. At first, I think when you and I first talked, we didn't know what was going on. It felt so chaotic. It was, we were shutting down. We had no idea how long it was going to last. And I think I've been talking a lot about, okay, so we're in this new normal, and it really is important to find some structure, because these days just rolling into one day after another, that makes you feel a little adrift, doesn't it? Somebody said to me the other day, I just feel like I'm this bubble floating around waiting until somebody pops me. So it really is, what can we do? Now, I don't know how it's happening where you are, but my hairdresser just opened up. So they haven't done that yet. There's a lot of questioning right now about, if I do go out, is that enough? Right? Should I go out? Should I go get my hair cut? My gym is opening on Monday. This coming Monday, my gym is opening. I don't know how I feel about that. Well, I do know how I feel about that. So it's all of this trying to figure out, what do we do now? Because it's gotten a little more obtuse, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's gotten a little more complicated in the last few weeks.
Because before we couldn't go out.
Right.
So at least we knew that was pretty black and white.
Yeah.
Now, maybe some of us can go out, and like, it's a different anxiety.
Right. Yeah. Totally different, because it was all or nothing. And we like all or nothing. We like, okay, tell us what to do. Okay, so I'm going to stay in my house. This is what's going to happen. It happened after we spoke. Schools started saying, well, we're going to open in May. Well, now we're going to open in late May. Now we're not going to open at all. And every event that comes up, there's this uncertainty about, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? They just canceled the Boston Marathon yesterday. So they had moved it to September, and now they're saying it's done. I'm seeing comments coming up about summer camp, right?
All right. So let's address this one, due to the fact that, it's the elephant in the room here. My husband owns 2 of the premier summer camps on the East Coast. So wait a second, where'd you go? Where did that go? Cricket. So Cricket, and I know you're involved in camping too. So she says there's a lot of anxiety with kids who would have been going to camp, and their parents who planned on them going to camp. And teens and adults who would have been working at a summer camp somewhere. Mm-hmm. There's also anxiety for parents who still aren't sure whether to send the kids to a camp that is open. So most of them have closed, and a few of them are staying open. And everybody who knows us and knows my husband knows that my husband was really focused on keeping the camp open. Mm-hmm. And he stood on his head. He did everything possible. And he was really concentrated on the virus. Like, can we control this virus? When in fact, he then announced that he was going to stay open. What he found was that he was really kind of fracturing his little social community of campers and their parents, because some were okay with it, some weren't. So they weren't going to have all their friends in their bunk. And it wasn't going to be the same because they can't go to other camps and play intercamp. And my husband decided that he was going to close for the reason that it wasn't good psychologically and emotionally to any of those people, to the ones that were going to go ahead and send, even though they weren't really sure they should. It just wasn't good for everybody's psyche and feeling. In the end, it actually had nothing to do with the virus, actually. So, but it is hard because there are a whole lot of people who planned on working at all these summer camps. And it's like, that's just one more example of normalcy getting ripped away from us. And now these parents who've had kids at home doing learning, it's going to end in a couple of weeks, or maybe some of them are even ending right now. And then what do you do with them? And so I think this is tough.
Yeah. And I think what you're describing and what your husband went through, I mean, that's such a good insight, is that what happens is, okay, so, we had the all or nothing, and now people are needing to make decisions. Making decisions in a time of uncertainty is very anxiety provoking. And what happens when people get very anxious is they stop making decisions because they're afraid they're going to make the wrong choice. What if they make this choice that seems like a good idea at the time and it goes poorly? So now I'm going to have regret. There comes this huge amount of responsibility now that we're in this choice making place. So your husband had to make a decision based on how can I ask parents to make this decision? And then when the kids are together, right? How can we ask the kids, and can we trust that the kids are going to be able to alter their behavior based on this? And what happens if, I think it's an interesting thing when I'm talking to families now and people are trying to make all of these decisions about camp and even just whether or not we're going to get together with a family, is that it becomes, like you said, very fracturing and and it's impacting relationships too, isn't it?
Yep, because here we hear Laura Morton was just discussing summer vacation with my daughter, and it triggered a very stressful, anxious response from her. Right. So again, it's not just can we go and see them and get together. When you talk about these things within your household, it creates stress. Like, but Mom, we can't just stay here forever.
Right. And I don't. It's hard because I don't see how this is sustainable. And I know right now I do a ton of work in schools. And so schools and colleges are trying to figure out how they're going to do this in the fall. Yeah. And so, if we look at it, Joan, like at the beginning, when you and I first talked, there was all that sort of panic and what's going on. And then I think we all sort of got a little, more depressive state of sort of just like, all right, here we go. We're going to do this. And then when the weather started getting nice, when summer started arriving, when we started talking about fall again, I think our anxiety is going back up. And I think that our agitation is going back up. And I think we started off, remember, it was sort of like, we're all in this together and there's going to be specials on TV and Beyonce's going to sing. And, blah, blah. And now I think we're all just like, we don't want to watch another special, right? Like we're just irritated with this.
Yes, absolutely.
You have to make these decisions. I mean, there are neighbors that are getting into arguments about, can the kid come over to the pool? A family told me the other day, their little 6-year-old was standing there looking at the neighbor's pool, and there was a whole bunch of kids in the pool. But she, they have an issue where the dad cannot be exposed to this thing based on his health. And so she's just sort of standing at the fence. Right. And it just is so hard at this point because we've got all these choices to make.
Well, it does bring up a couple of other issues. I think a lot of people, from all the comments I've been reading, they want to know, they think they need a do-over because they've spent weeks, quote unquote, in their PJs. Sometimes they even say they have daytime PJs and nighttime PJs.
Yes, I've heard that too.
From the boredom of that, they found themselves turning to Oreos and Tostitos, and that's something they never would have done otherwise. And now, 10 pounds later, they're really upset with themselves. So how can we flip that frustration with what we did into action to try to turn things around and get back on a positive track and feel good again?
Yeah, what a great question. And I was saying this early on. I was saying, look, on December 1st, when you say to yourself, oh, I'm just going to eat what I want and I'm just going to drink what I want. Come January 2nd, I'll take care of this. And then January 2nd comes around and you're like, what did I do? So I think that's where people are feeling, that permission at the beginning felt awesome, but now it doesn't feel so great. So I think the first thing that you need to do is critical self-talk about this isn't really going to help, right? So
as women, we tend to do that.
Of course, right? And so going and saying, oh, I shouldn't have done that. It's the woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? Oh, if only I had done this. It's all that regret. Oh. Okay, so you can get that out of your system. Give yourself a good 5 minutes to beat yourself up, and then say, now, what are the actions that I'm going to take? Right? So I always say I'm a how therapist, not a why therapist. Why did you do that? We know. How are you going to fix it? And then start, the one good thing about this is that as we're coming out of this, it is summertime in most parts of the world. So start moving your body for one, because not only is that going to help your health, I'm sure that you must talk about this all the time, right? Not only is it good for your health, but it's good for your mind. And my sort of rule of things is that if it's not in the house, you're not going to eat it. So
and then you don't have to test yourself willpower all the time.
Right. Because say you've got this box of Oreos or this, whatever it's in, bag of Oreos, right? So you can say
for me.
What is it?
Mine is Tostitos. I'm a crunchy, salty person instead of the sweets.
Yeah. But you say no to it 1,000 times, and then here comes the yes. So get it out of the house. I remember a long time ago, a woman came to see me and she was so frustrated because she kept eating chocolate chip cookies. She was studying for some big board for her career. And she said, I'm just eating so many chocolate chip cookies. And I said, well, and she lived alone. And I said, how do the chocolate chip cookies get into your house? And she said, well, I buy them at the grocery store. And I said, okay, so I don't want to be all or nothing with this. I don't want to tell you can't have chocolate chip cookies, but you can only have the kind of chocolate chip cookies that get to your house on their own, right? So what we need to do is we need to be encouraging with ourselves.
Start a plan. You almost look at it as like, all right. I mean, to me, that's the same thing with the weekend. I said to myself, I've got to do something to make Saturday and Sunday look different and feel different, besides just maybe getting up later or something. But the same thing with flipping that from being just generally pissed off at yourself, because that's not going to do any good.
Yeah, right. It's that all or nothing thing again, too, right? So say you say, all right, tomorrow I'm going to start eating better, or tomorrow I'm going to exercise every day and then you fall off the wagon a little bit, and then of course then you beat yourself up and you spiral down. The thing that I talk to people about when they're trying to change these behaviors, particularly women, is that I want you to think permanent, not perfect. So permanent means that you say to yourself, I'm a healthy eater. And that just becomes part of your identity. Or I'm an exerciser. Or I'm a walker. Or I hydrate myself. So you take that on as sort of a statement you make about yourself, but it doesn't mean that you do it perfectly every day. So yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to set yourself up for that.
It's that
yourself again.
It's that all or nothing thing again.
Yeah.
Human beings, we like those clear boundaries. So if you say, well, I'm an exerciser, but you know what? I didn't exercise yesterday, but that's okay because I'm an exerciser. So you think long-term pattern rather than short-term perfection. And then when you go to beat yourself up, you say, oh, I didn't exercise yesterday. Well, that's okay because this came up and that came up. Yeah. But I'm an exerciser. It's a much more positive and encouraging way to talk to yourself.
I love that idea.
Permanent but not.
Labeling yourself. Also, I always say if I get dressed in my sneakers and my yoga pants and a t-shirt in the morning, I'm much more likely to go outside.
Sure. And the other thing too is that when we're changing behaviors, if we pay attention to our feelings when we start, right? That's not how you get stuff done. How many times have I gotten up in the morning, or you've gotten up in the morning and you're like, oh, I don't feel like going and working out, or I don't feel like doing this or that. And I know, and you know from experience, that the payoff is at the end, not necessarily at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I was just out on my bike this morning with my friend Andy, and I shamed him into doing this really hard passage with all these steep hills. And we finished, and I said, see, we never regret that we did it. We didn't.
You never regret it after you leave the gym or come back from the walk. You always feel so invigorated and you feel so good about yourself.
You don't say to yourself, oh, why did I go for that walk? That was terrible. Right? You do say that. Why did I eat those 10 Oreos? Right? But think about yourself, your identity, right? Who you are. So you begin to imagine, if you were introducing yourself to somebody, to be able to say, oh, I'm an exerciser, or I love exercise. Yes. Right? Now, you might not like it the first 5 minutes, but you love it the last 5 minutes. Yeah. You just say, I love exercising, or I'm a person who, and you begin to talk about yourself that way to yourself and to other people. And
that's remodeling your self-talk. And absolutely, a lot of us need to do that.
Right. Well, because we believe what we say to ourselves.
You're right. Yeah.
Right?
Listen, you have a lot of people here. Here's Marion Lowry. I love the permanent, not perfect approach. That's, because you're not setting yourself up for failure with that. We have a lot of people have an issue with the weekend. Nan Sakala, making the weekend different. For her, the husband makes an awesome breakfast. Good for you, Nan. Deb Ives, I agree. The weekend needs to be different somehow. Yeah. And of course, there's a lot of people like Marie Thomas. My granddaughter was supposed to be getting married this weekend. And she's arranged it now for the same date next year. Yeah, like a lot of my speeches I was booked to do in March, April, May, June are now, I'm doing them same time, same place next year. A lot of the others just haven't done anything. But I don't like this one. Linda, we got to talk. Like, you need to talk right now, Linda Robert, we've got Lynn here. She says, why I cry so much, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
How do you do self-talk to yourself so that you could talk yourself out of that?
Okay, so the first thing, Linda, is that you don't really have to spend a lot of time asking why. Because if you were to say to me, Lynn, I'm crying a lot, and I would say, Linda, we're in a pandemic. I'm guessing that you're probably missing out on things, that your life isn't the way that it's, we went from fear of missing out to missing out, people's weddings getting rescheduled, not having a lot to look forward to, at least not knowing when that's going to happen. So why are you crying? I would say, because this is really, really hard. And because I don't know you, Linda, but I'm guessing that you're probably a pretty sensitive, empathic person. So there's a lot that's worthy of our tears right now. When we ask ourselves those why questions, sometimes those questions are a little harsh, right? I often say when I'm working with couples, if you say to your partner, why can't you remember to take out the trash? You're really not looking for an answer. You're just kind of, being right.
Passive aggressive.
Right. Passive aggressive. So Linda, you don't have to ask yourself why, but I think if we switch it a little to how questions, or what questions. So what are you missing right now? And how can you find little ways to insert joy into your life? And this is what I've been talking about so much with parents and grandparents, is that we human beings are capable of experiencing moments of joy, even in moments of despair.
Yeah.
Right? There are so many, like, look at our art, look at our music, look at the way people dance, right? A lot of that comes out of our despair. So Linda, I would want you to take a piece of paper, and I would like you to make a list. On one side, what are the things that I do that make me feel worse? Write those things down. And then what are the things that I do that make me feel better? And they can be small things. Maybe it's cranking music. Maybe it's baking. Maybe it's getting outside in the sunshine. Maybe it's playing with your dog. And then have that piece of paper. Oh, I miss my daughter's hugs. Oh, you know what? if I were to say to you, Linda, are you crying because you miss your daughter's hugs? Right? And you might say yes. Then who amongst us would say, oh, Linda, that's no reason to cry, right? We would all say, of course. I mean, I'm a crier. When I think about my family's 4th of July celebration, when I think about the fact that I'm going to try and go up and see my parents this afternoon, and I'm not going to go in their house. All of this is worthy of our tears. Yeah,
we have a few people. We have. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your first name, but I'll try. We'll put it up. Oh, here it's right. It's actually right there. If we have a to-do list, that can help us keep up with things.
Yeah.
And then there's somebody else. I've been here. Is it Nancy? Yes, Nancy Koch. She says, I've been trying to find one thing that I am thankful for each day.
Yeah.
I know that my daughter, Lindsay, she does a rose and a thorn every night. She has her kids do it to think about something every night that was really fabulous about the day. And it just puts you into that that sense of appreciation, like puts you in that mindset. Sue Stack, how does one stay motivated without having much on our calendars, especially on rainy, cloudy days?
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness for sunshine, right? One thing I've noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed this, Joan, too, and I've been talking to my friends, is that we'll have a good day and a bad day. You know, we call it hitting the wall. So I've hit the COVID wall. And one of the things we've noticed is that it doesn't really make rational sense. Like a few weeks ago, we had this really cold, rainy day. It was actually snowing and like 35 degrees a few weeks ago. And I was in a pretty good mood that day. And so I think we have to be careful not to analyze this too much. And if I can, I love when you're talking about a rose and a thorn. And just to go back to Linda, who's wondering why she's crying. Linda, you can, and other people can say this. What was something today that was worthy of my tears? And what was something today that was worthy of my laughter? Because trying to smush down and deny these feelings and to say, you know, and to negate them and say, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way, right? That's not gonna help. The more we try and push them down and then we get that negative self-talk, right? Oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. It's fine for you to cry.
But purposeful self-talk, like we have Donna Lynn here saying, my dad always taught me that we choose the day when we wake up, if it's going to be a good day or a bad day. Now, I don't remember who it was, but we recently had someone on. You all might remember which guest it was. But he said that every day when you wake up, before you put your feet on the floor, you should say to yourself, maybe it was the guy, the effortless, you know, all the F words, like who's in your foxhole. And that we should say it's going to be a fabulous day. And then when you get up and sit, you know, start walking across the room, you're already in that head. Don't tell yourself, actually, that was fake news. Say, fabulous, fabulous. It's going to be a great, today's Friday. It's going to be, this is Feel Good Friday.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I put that on my calendar. I actually put on my calendar on Fridays, Feel Good Fridays. Of course, I also put Taco Tuesday on Tuesday, but that's okay.
Well, one of the things we know when we're working on people, treating people who are struggling with depression, is that there's something called behavioral activation. It's a kind of treatment for depression where you really focus on what you're going to do because we're trying to create a positive momentum loop. So it's sort of what I said, think about the things you know that make you feel better. So it's sort of, if we say, well, I'm only going to do things if I feel like it, and you're feeling depressed and you're feeling low, what are you going to do?
Yeah. There's nowhere to go forward there.
Right. But if you're going to say, I'm going to do things that I know make me feel better, whether I feel like it right now or not, then you develop some positive momentum. So if you get up in the morning, like you're saying, Joan, and you say, okay, so today I am going to act. Sometimes people say, you know what, Lynn, you say, oh, it's a fabulous day. It is not a fabulous day. It's a crappy day. And I say, well, act as if it's a fabulous day.
Yep. Fake it until you get there.
If it were a fabulous day, how would you act? And yeah, that's right. So you're faking it till you make it. A lot of these cliches that we have, we go, oh, that's so cliche. Well, the reason they're a cliche is because they have a pretty significant grain of truth. So making yourself be active, one of the things that's been really hard for people is that they haven't been able to see the people they love as much as they want to. They haven't been able to do the normal routines that they want to do. And just to put the cherry on the misery sundae, we don't know how long this is going to last. So you've got to make some conscious efforts to do, right? The time of sitting around in your daytime and your nighttime pajamas, we're through that, right? We got to start being more active.
And while that was kind of an odd, new stress, like we've never gone through this before, so it's a new kind of stress that we're not used to feeling, let alone dealing with. Although we talked a little bit beforehand, I said it might be similar to, like, for years when men have primarily been the ones that go out and they're in that job and they're in it for 40, 50 years. And all of a sudden the boss says, all right, you're 65. That's our policy. Thanks for all your hard work. And you go home and then, like, what do you do the next Monday? Right. And not only that, like, who am I? What am I supposed to do with my life? Right. It's probably akin to that kind of a sensation.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been talking to a lot of women who remember that, maybe they were busy and they had their careers and then they had a child and along came Monday morning and then you've got this newborn and then it's 3:00 in the afternoon and you haven't really, you haven't gotten much accomplished and you start feeling like, right, you don't know where the time went. I think it's that whole sort of feeling of sort of what's my purpose? What's my meaning? How do I, at the end of the day, how do I look and say, well, I got this done and this done and this done? It really, we've had to learn this as we go. That's why it's been so tricky and so interesting.
Well, maybe we have to do what one of the people said, which is make yourself a little to-do list of things that are easy. Somebody was on the other day and they said, make a little to-do list of something that takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And it was a nutritionist, actually. And she said, when you all of a sudden feel like eating, go to that little list, put it right there on the refrigerator and go do one of those. Then you'll come back and you didn't eat. So now you're happy with yourself and you accomplished something.
Yeah.
So let me ask one thing, because a lot of people might be in this state of, like, we've been told not to do anything, but now all of a sudden there's that anxiety with going out there. And that's also a brand new stress. But there are actually people that have that disease where they can't go outside their house. But a real phobia. But now it's almost like, is it okay if we step off the curb back into reality? So now we're dealing with another brand new stress that we've never dealt with before.
Right. So it's more uncertainty, right? And we like a clear path. So remember, anxiety wants certainty and comfort. Anxiety likes a plan. It's fairly rigid, right? So we feel better when we know exactly what's going to happen. And now we've got to make all these decisions. So we have to decide, do I feel comfortable doing this or do I feel comfortable doing that? My friend is going back to the gym. Should I go back to the gym? What risk am I willing to take? I've been talking a lot about people, to people and talking to their kids about this too, is that how do we figure out for our families and for ourselves what's reasonable risk? Now, that's what we always do, right? When I hand my teenager the car keys, I'm assessing reasonable risk. And so we're having to do that in all of these routine activities that we didn't even think about. How many people said, gosh, is it safe for me to go get my roots done? No, you just went and got your roots done, right? So it's all of this uncertainty. And I think the issue that we have to recognize and the thing that we have to talk to ourselves about is that we can't know. We're not going to get it 100% correct. There's not one good decision in this. And that you're allowed to change, say you decide, all right, you know what, I'm going to go to the hairdresser, I'm going to get my roots done. And you walk in and you notice that nobody in there is sort of doing social distancing, or you thought everybody was going to wear a mask, but now you notice that they don't. It's okay for you to change your mind. It's okay for you to adjust and adapt. We like to have things clear.
Like Nancy Koch just says, we always want to be in control. This pandemic, we aren't in control.
Correct. Yeah. And, control is a myth anyway, this idea that we are in control. So we're actually in control of very little. This just feels, this is global, not in control. So focus on the things you can control and give yourself some leeway. So when I think about anxiety and wanting to be in control, I imagine just like this tightrope, and your anxiety saying, you need to make the right decision. And if you make the wrong decision, woo, it's a long way down, right? So let's just do this, right? Let's just make it wider. Let's just make it wider so that you can make decisions.
Even just hearing you describe it, doesn't that feel safer as just those parameters, and go out and just make sure that, assess your risk. And if it seems okay, then go forward. Somebody just got through saying, here, anxiety is an understatement. People coughing on you and you're trying to be safe, but can't control others' actions.
Yeah. And I think that's what, when we talk about the anger and the agitation that we're feeling right now, I think the thing that probably honestly is the most disheartening to me is that people are acting, not all people, but some people are just acting terribly because they want to get back in their lives and they don't want to deal with this uncertainty. And I totally understand. But you do feel like you're walking into these situations and you really have to trust that the people around you are going to be thinking about this in the same way. And we can't control that. And, look, we could go on social media. I'll tell you, I've been on Twitter more during all of this than ever in my life.
And why so?
Well, I don't know, Joan. I just got sucked in. And I'll tell you, Twitter has become my Oreos. I need to put it away and not keep ingesting it. I don't know how maybe I was seeing things that were interested in. I felt like I was getting up-to-date information and looking at things. It has really taken a toll on me because I'm seeing a lot of bad behavior. And all of the faith that I want to have in people helping each other, which I know is happening so much. When you're on that social media, you're seeing bad behavior. It does.
And they do it anonymously, so it's even more crass and cruel. I just scrolled back because I knew I saw somebody. It was Marty Cullum. She says, people are judging, name calling, criticizing, saying this is just like the flu, telling older people to stay in the house. Let the young people, though, go out and live. Mm-hmm. And so she's kind of saying that it's created a situation where we are judgmental of each other. What, you're going out? Really?
Yes.
You care about, you're this, you're that. So it's almost like put us into different buckets.
Yeah. Well, okay. So here's the thing. Human beings are incredibly judgy. We have just found an arena in which the judgment is out there. So we, think about all the conversations we've had about moms judging each other. And Laura, hashtag Laura. My Oreos.
Twitter is my Oreos. Good, Laura.
But as a species, human beings are pretty judgy because remember, we're social species. So we're always trying to size each other up because that's how we decide who's friend, who's foe. So judging other people is really sort of hardwired into our social net, DNA here. But in the judginess, it comes out in all sorts of ways. I think right now with the pandemic, and again, we've been saying we have to make all these decisions and what's right, and should I go here and should I go to there? It is just like the most fertile ground for judginess that you can imagine, and there's a lot at stake. And so people's agitation is up. There's threat, there's fear, there's so much emotion in this. So all of this judgment is so loaded, and it feels so threatening. And so, and that's why I need to stay off Twitter. That's why I need.
But we've seen the protests at different, places around the country, and people are so enraged. But while humans are hardwired for judging us, we're also hardwired to come together. I read an article the other day, and it stated that we are social creatures. Social connection is essential to our well-being. Humans are wired to come together physically. Yep. And that our modern world has already become so separated that loneliness has become widespread in this modern life of ours. And now social distancing has exacerbated the problem. So they called it quarantine fatigue.
Yeah.
And said quarantine fatigue has set in.
Right.
And people are feeling it.
Yep. And, you know, it's interesting when we talk about loneliness, because when I talk about teenagers and anxiety and depression, and there was a study that was done a few years ago where kids were talking about their loneliness, and what, by their self-report, young people in this country, kids, I say kids, but young people between the ages of 17 and 24, currently rate their loneliness at 50% greater than people over the age of 72.
That is so startling and so scary.
Yeah. So then you think
about,
and so you think about this. So we've got on either end of the spectrum, we've got people that are feeling like they can't. I was talking to a friend the other day who has a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old grandchild, and she can't see them, and she feels like time is just moving past, and she's missing all these amazing milestones and these amazing moments. And then we've got teenagers on the other hand, and they are absolutely wired, like you said, to connect. They're developmentally, they are supposed to be together, physically together. And so that fatigue and that depression, a lot of families are saying, you know, we really urged our kids to be online, talking to their grandparents or talking to their friends, and now they don't even want to do it anymore, right? We're zoomed out. We are zoomed out.
Well, it's crazy because you would think that because of all the phones and the, you know, the Snapchat and all this, that it would help them stay together. And yet your startling statistics have really come about since the phones have become so integral to. I mean, it's almost like there's this fear because every time you're home alone, you can see what everybody else is doing somewhere else. And like in my house, my kids have not gone out. And amazingly, they haven't even asked to go out. And in fact, if anybody even talks about it in any way, they're almost like fiercely defensive of the stay at home so none of us get sick. But a lot of their friends are going to parties. What?
You raised very empathic children who are seeing this as something not about them. So good for you.
Yeah, because they say you're too at risk, Mom, because I had a double lung infection a couple of years ago, two viruses at once, and they know that. So they know that I'm really at risk. So they wouldn't do anything. But it's crazy when I say to them, what's going on with your friends? Are they also staying at home? Oh, God, no, there's a party here and a party here.
Right.
Which I don't, it's funny to even think about that because I've been inside my house for so long.
I know. I'm hearing the same thing. I'm seeing Eileen's comment. I worry so much about the children, my grandchildren. Any suggestions? So it's hard. I get it. Here's the best thing that you can do for your children and your grandchildren, Eileen. And you can talk to your son or daughter. I don't know.
I got a gaggle of all of them.
The people. Is that we want these kids to see you, meaning you as their grandmother and your children, their parents, experiencing joy in little ways. So when I've been talking to families and they're saying, what can we do? I'm so worried about them. When adults show joy to kids, when you see an adult being silly, when you see them singing at the top of their lungs, when you see them being playful, we want to be playful with our kids, but even just a child witnessing an adult being joyful gives you immediately a sense of security and a sense that things are going to be okay, even in the midst of all of this. And I've been telling this story. So my dad is 79, my mom is 78. They made a break from it from Florida at the end of April. They were down there. They live in New Hampshire, and they said, we got to get out. So we made all the arrangements, and they're in their house in New Hampshire now. And my mom sent me a video of my dad listening to 50s music, because that's his era, on Spotify. So he's blasting the music and he's vacuuming and he's dancing.
That's awesome.
Right now, I'm almost 55 and he's 79, right? But
Isn't that fabulous?
seeing my dad dance made me feel like, oh, it's going to be okay. Look,
I hope you videotaped that.
Yeah, it's video. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just, so when you're with your kids, be silly in surprising ways. You know, I've been telling families, so mom or dad should say, you know what we're having for dinner tonight? We're having sundaes. We're having ice cream sundaes. Or you know what we're doing tonight? Everybody has to come to the dinner table wearing a silly hat. Or we're going to have it and it doesn't have to be, I just keep saying, like, throw these little nuggets of joy out there, because it's going to lift everybody's spirits. They will truly feel like it's going to be okay when you see mommy and daddy, when you see grandma and grandpa being silly, being joyful, and laughing, belly laughing. It gives our kids this immediate sense of like, oh, it's okay. So that's what
the best prescription ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to end on that because I love that note. That is like, they don't need medicine, they need that. And that's just such a wonderful thing for us to model joy and think of little things to do. And I'm so glad to hear that your dad found joy.
Yeah.
I never thought we would have been doing this again right now, but we really, really appreciate it.
Oh, it's so nice to come back and talk to you again. And we sort of, you know, we've all kind of been on this journey, and it's strange. I just keep saying it's weird. It's weird. It's weird. Not such
weird. Well, we're in the same canoe, so let's all be silly and joyful. All right.
Right.
Thanks, Lynn.
That's right. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Joan.
All righty. Bye-bye. And it is the weekend, so think of a way to make tomorrow different. It's going to be Saturday. I mean, maybe do something different for breakfast, or, you know, give somebody breakfast in bed that the kids would never imagine it, or whatever it is in your house. Tomorrow I'm going to be happy because I'm going to probably finish up my current jigsaw puzzle. One of these days I'm going to have to count how many I've done during this time, because that's kind of my meditation. I think it could be close to 20, believe it or not. And it's become harder and harder to order new ones because everyone else has bought them all. All right, listen, you guys, it's the weekend. Have a great one. Namaste. I loved Lynn today. I hope you did too. Bye-bye.